So first of all, a quick thank you to you to begin with, Camilo, and everyone else who's behind this amazing use of tech for virtual talks and everything else. I mean, this is my first in such an environment, and being on the moon, that literally just blew me away in the first place. And I've been exploring the thing. And again, having the honor of being in presence of all the other speakers who are from different countries, and learning from their, sharing with them, perhaps even growing together. It's a great opportunity. So first of all, thank you very much. My name is Mohammad Iftekhar Yezdani. I'm from Pakistan, and I have a space sector startup called Raheqamar, and which translates as "road to the moon" in both Arabic, Persian, Urdu. So it's a word that was coined quite cleverly. We took a little bit of time to come up with something like that. And the best part is we till date we don't need SEO. You just have to type the right spelling, and it's like it pops up on the first page. That said, we do different outreach programs. We go to schools, colleges. We do NASA Space Apps Challenge, hackathons and stuff. Still trying. Pakistan has a lot to contribute to. Has been contributing and will continue contributing for the peaceful applications of space tech. In the coming years, of course, and will be hopefully playing some part in it. That said, my topic is GLOF, which is Glacial Lake Outburst Flood. And what exactly is that? We can move on to the next slide. Yeah. So thank you. A GLOF, or a Glacial Lake Outburst Flood, is categorically a sudden release of water, large amount of water, not small water, because an outburst from a lake fed by glacier melt. That means that whatever lake has formed, the water is coming from a glacier that had melted and has formed at, say, for example, the side, in front, within, beneath, or even on the surface of a glacier. And that's quite scary. Why? Because the key factor, because of those, and so this used to happen a lot over the years, but the number of floods were not that many. Over the past 50 years, there's been a rise due to global warming and climate change, and Pakistan has been one of the worst hits. So glacial lake outburst floods represent a major hazard and can result in the significant loss of life. Categorically, if not forecasted before time, and it's quite difficult. It's a bit of a challenge to be very accurate at forecasting something like this, but GLOF destroys everything in its path. And globally, in terms of statistics, since 1990, the number and size of glacier lakes has grown rapidly, literally along with downstream population. Millions of people globally are exposed to impacts from occurring and potential loss. So when I say occurring, there are countries that have these like every year, and those that could potentially, just go through this categorically catastrophic event. It becomes kind of scary. So populations, especially in high mountain areas, are the most exposed, and on average, those who live closest to the glacial lakes, with approximately in numbers 1 million people living within 10 kilometers of a glacial lake, they could be the most affected. So more than half of the globally, I would say, people are at risk of this disaster, and honestly, being exposed to something like this. 4 countries specifically in the entire world are the most exposed. So India, Pakistan, Peru, and China. the most exposed and most in danger because of this. If you think of it, if you can imagine, or perhaps if you can see the globe right behind me and think of the Himalayan range and think of, the amount of frozen water there, that if that melts, how much of a disaster could that be the moment that, just flows down to the Indian Ocean? It will take and sweep everything on its path, kill everyone. So most glaciers are out of balance with present climate categorically. So approximately 36, plus minus 8% of the current loss that is, lagged due to climate is due to the past climate change, and we can see that happening. It's GLOF can be highly destructive and can arrive with little prior warning. We've seen this, and last year, for example, I'll show you soon. I'll share a bit more of the details, but I can just to set the stage. It's been causing so much damage to property, infrastructure, agricultural land, and almost everything. It's quite a challenge, and the extensive loss of life, it's unimaginable. So, however, the impact varies again significantly. So during the past 70 years, several thousands have been killed. One example is the Cordillera Blanca in Peru. It can't be imagined. I mean, in numbers, when the statistics speak for themselves. We've already moved to the next slide. Great. So Pakistan, when it comes to Pakistan, we have, since 1990, the number of glacial lakes have increased in size significantly. Since 1990, the number of glacial lakes, the area, the volume of glacial lakes globally, again, not just Pakistan, has been increasing. It was like 53%, then 51%, then again it was 48%, and it's been growing, and it's quite scary. If you look at the lands, the images provided, and then you can actually look at the landslide, the observations by Landsat over the past decades. There's imagery, for example. If we move on to the next slide, you can see that there are examples of unrecorded catastrophic floods, and the amount of water that can be seen are it's just too much. So Pakistan again has over 5,000 glaciers, and most of them are in the Karakoram and Himalayan range. And that contributes to Pakistan's freshwater resources. Dams are in the making. Of course, we're trying to store more and more of that water that's coming in. But in terms of vulnerability to the GLOFs, and because of the high concentration of glaciers, it's probably fair to say that not even, despite the fact that we're building all those dams, yet it's not going to suffice in controlling the water that is eventually melting and coming down from the Karakoram range, the Himalayan range, and climate change. I would say, I would take the opportunity to say that all of these catastrophic climate change-induced glacier melt, which is leading to increased water volume and glacial lakes, could lead to millions of deaths. And if I could move on to the next slide, please. Along with all of these, it's quite safe to say that there are over at least, I mean, we've been able to identify over 3,000 glacial lakes in the Himalayan range, and we've been like asking the world to focus on these because of the rapidly melting large amount of water, and all of these are potentially unstable lakes now. You'd be surprised. Our Prime Minister gave a talk like 2 or 3 days ago, and again, the floods of 2022 last year are literally a reality check. If you see the devastation that it caused, our Prime Minister categorically pointed out at it. If we could move on to the next slide, please. There are some infographics and things being mentioned. You can see these are those are just examples. Those pictures, not examples, those are just 2 pictures, but they're like a gazillion pictures of different areas that were completely inundated, and there was a significant amount of loss of livestock. If we could move on to the next slide, please, we can show you that because of that, those floods. Yeah, thank you. Because of the floods, at least 33 million people, were affected, and 1,700 plus people were killed directly, or they didn't survive when they were taken to the hospital. And then, since the beginning of the monsoon in like the mid-June in 2022, we and India share, the monsoon season, and between mid-June 2022 and November 18, 2022, 20.6 million people required humanitarian assistance. So, I mean, those pictures in the middle with when you see, these look great, and I mean, in terms of tourism, going out there into the northern side of Pakistan, into the Himalayan range, Karakoram range, and being there, it's beautiful in terms of tourism, but those are deadly mountains because once these melt, they don't spare anyone. If we could move to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So with the rate of glacial melt, which is increasing, and it's contributed to the formation of large, potentially even more hazardous glacial lakes. So, the numbers, when I said earlier, 3,044 approximately or more, the numbers are increasing. And this could lead to even more catastrophes and more damage, more human life losses. A lot of people are increasingly in danger. Agricultural land at risk, and livestock at risk, and houses are at risk. A lot needs to be done, and we need to be prepared. So, if you see the picture on the left, you can see that the amount of current preparedness, there's a lot to be done. And when it comes to monitoring, of course, we've started. It took a while. There's been research going on, still being researched, a lot of research being going on. So approximately 250 small-scale engineering structures are being built. 50 weather stations are being built to monitor, and 408 river discharge sensors have been deployed. Yet that will not suffice. More needs to be done, and that's the biggest challenge because, again, lack of funds, inaccessibility due to when it's like right now, extreme weather conditions. In terms of logistics. There's lack of electricity, even we don't have perfect roads to move around, great roads rather to move around, only like the highway. But if you go for there's a lot of off-roading to do. It's extremely dangerous. So that said, a lot needs to be done, and we're trying to get there. Because if we don't deal with this, we can expect not just devastation, but also, with losses in terms of agricultural land, the question of food security and lots of other matters, come into play. So that, I'd like to end here by saying that preparedness and monitoring is probably the first two steps that we as a country are trying to work on, and we're welcoming international collaboration. My own startup has proposed engineering level designs to start with a pilot glacial lake to first start collecting that data, and then using a machine learning model, ultimately those that come more or less in that same shape and size, be able to kind of forecast with the different air, what do you call that, with the expected changes in global warming and stuff, so that we could simulate the amount of water that would flow and perhaps be able to save as many lives as we can. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammad, for your wonderful presentation. Do we have any question from Alejandro or Fiorella?
Oh, thank you. How do you clap? I don't know how to clap.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I'm still trying to mute and unmute myself, like learning how to do it quickly. Thank you so much for your presentation. I actually want to ask about all the information that you have already collected. Is it being used in terms of prevention, like, I don't know, like new dams being built or emergency plans being arranged or things like that? Like, how is the data being used right now?
Okay, thank you. So data is still being collected. A lot of the data that we're using is purely based on the so obviously there are multiple angles to it. So if we could move to one of the slides, for example, that had the Google Maps. So using actual geolocations, we've been able to highlight specifically the 44 extremely dangerous, potentially dangerous lakes from the 3,044 lakes that are there. Yeah, thank you. That for example that. But the risk is growing. In terms of data on how much water each lake may have, that has not yet been done, and that's one of the most difficult areas that we're trying to address. Why? Because A, it's difficult to reach those locations. B, when you're there, fine. How do you actually measure? We tried to do 3D scans. We tried satellite data. We've used SAR. I'm not sure if you know about synthetic aperture, but radars. But we try to use that to try and see if we could quantify the amount of water that's there, but it's still not done. So a lot of it is approximation.
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I have a quick question. Are you collaborating with some countries in Latin America outside Peru?
Okay, no, not yet. We're open to any collaboration. We have not yet. We are in talks. So we're in talks with a lot of people, but no, not from anyone apart from Peru as well. If you can suggest, we'd be very happy to, initiate and perhaps, take that as a baseline.
Please consider Paraguayan Space Agency. We are very open to collaborate and to implement some projects here regarding the Earth observation applications. We will be more than happy to continue this conversation after to see how we can manage to develop some pilot projects or some kind of collaboration between Paraguay and your startup.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.